Here we go. I'm going to talk about this last panel we just had this weekend at the Fort Lauderdale, Broward's first Black Comic Con, multicultural Comic Con. The only way that South Florida can do it is to put all the diaspora on display. So it wasn't just Black Americans, Jamaicans, Haitians, Latinos. So it was all there. And we had an interesting panel where we talked about diversity in sci-fi and comic books in general, just kind of like an update on it. And it's made, I put the whole panel up so you can see it. It's on the YouTube page. Like and subscribe, like the way they say it. Actually, I do need to build my subscriptions, so subscribe to it. But anyway, I was talking on Facebook about this Chinese science fiction picture, The Wandering Earth. And I'd always told people part of why I do my Black Dreams Matter presentation is to expose people to the importance of diversity in sci-fi for the diversity, right? That sounds crazy, but here you go. Sci-fi is not only important for little Black kids to see themselves in the future. That's definitely important. But not only do Black kids need to see Black kids in the future, so do white children, so do Asians, so do Arab children, so do Indian, Latino, you name it. We need to see each other in the future if we're going to have a future with all of us there, right? Now, what does that mean? It's not just talking about seeing us in the future only, but really respecting our variations of what that future will be. Meaning, you don't just want to have Black kids saying white writers' lines, or the lines that would a white writer would write for white kids, or Asian kids in the future, people in the future saying lines and behaving the way white kids, white people would behave. You want to bring in the multicultural thinking, the theory, the thoughts, the ideology, the answers to the questions. You want that to be diversified as well as the people. Okay, so that's really, because as much as we'd like to say, oh, it's a tall person in the story, it's a short person in the story, how would a heavy person behave? How would a gay person behave? How would a straight person behave? Yeah, those are beautiful elements of diversity, no doubt. I remember I went to a workshop in Arizona, and the lady was saying, we promote diversity. We have commuters and non-commuters on our campus. We have smokers and non-smokers. And I'm like, you really don't get diversity. But it was a college presenter, at a top workshop, putting out this type of confusion. But I'll take all of that. You can even give me the gingerbread man with as many sexual orientations as there are, and I'll still double that with culture. Culture and race are the biggest areas of diversity. We got over 100 different cultures in Africa alone, not to mention around the world. So when you put tall, short, smokers, non-smokers, commuters, non-commuters, campus residents, you name it, traditional students, or the ones that come at 25, yeah, you may be able to get up to a good 10 or 15 different forms of diversity, and maybe with gender you might push it up to 30, but I'm going to tell you that there's more cultural variation than anything else. And so people try to sidestep diversity with other forms of differences and variations, but what we're really talking about is racial and cultural diversity. So in the cultural diversity discussion, what I really like is this new, not really like, I'll just say it gives me a real good example to demonstrate what I'm talking about, is the Wandering Earth. I think what they really did well was to provide something in terms of a what if or how to solve this that Western sci-fi didn't. The whole story of the Wandering Earth, and they run through it like an anime, you know. It's like if you ever seen one of them anime sci-fi stories like Freedom, or another one where it was like post-apocalypse and they had to eat little special food or whatever, I can't remember. Made me think of Soylent Green. But they do a little run through, almost Ghost in the Shell. They do a run through, a backstory that sets up the whole world, and you almost like, dang, why don't you just show us this instead of telling us? But that's a gimme with Asian sci-fi. So they run through the backstory of the Wandering Earth, where they talk about, you know, this Earth is coming to an end. I believe it's the sun moving closer, or something. I see too many things. I think it's the sun moving closer. And so what they have to do, and that's wild on its own. First of all, I've never heard Western sci-fi speculate to that extent, right? Then you have them saying, we gotta go save ourselves. So Western sci-fi would be like, let's get on rocket ships, let's divvy up, take the rich and a few lottery winners, and we on ships and we out, right? I even did that in one of my stories, right? Shout out to Church of God in Space. That's in the book Sci-Fi Streets if you want to check it out. But Wandering Earth said, yo, we're going to build engines and we're going to move the whole Earth. To me, that's what I'm looking for. Why would that come from Asian science fiction culture? I think because, you know, their relationship to the Earth, their connection to the Earth, just the things that they believe are possible. Our cultures manifest our religious beliefs. So our religious beliefs in the Western culture, at least through the Abrahamic religions, is, you know, we are the care people of the earth. We take care of the animals. And if we, you know, in our minds, if we can't do our jobs, we still got to save ourselves. And we're out, you know, whereas a lot of other cultures, they, like the Native Americans, give you an example. You ask them, where's God? They point down to earth. And then they say, where do you come from? They point right back down to earth. So they don't separate themselves from earth. And I think when earth is threatened, it's not a go down with the ship scenario. They're threatened. And they don't possibly, I don't know, would see themselves separating themselves from earth and terraforming another planet, which is, you know, big through Western media, not only through Western sci-fi, it's practically in our science. You know what I'm saying? I don't see our science thinking of building engines to move the Earth. But I would bet, give it a few years, in Asian science fiction or Asian science, they're going to toy with the idea of doing that. Just because it's already been speculated about in their science fiction. So on that note, I like the Wandering Earth. Now, that's just the big sci-fi element, the big sci-fi dilemma, the big sci-fi question and answer that they're putting forth. But they also take it a step further throughout the story, and they're putting out devices, they're putting out technologies, you know, where we have a transporter in Star Trek, they have different technical devices in their story. And I think that's wonderful. You know what I'm saying? They have different machines. That all is a byproduct of your sci-fi. That's, or I mean, your culture, your cultural manifestation. Do they fly on birds? Do they create mechanical birds? All of that is a part of your sci-fi. So for that, I say, look at Wandering Earth and understand what diversity in sci-fi is. I used to say, you know, Godzilla with Monster Zero and the aliens that came and studied them as an example of Asian sci-fi, but now you can do it through Wandering Earth. And that's it. Check me out. I'm presenting my Black Dreams Matter presentation in Miami on June 6th. All right. It's Googleable under Eventbrite under Nerd Night Miami. So I'm going to be presenting to Nerd Night Miami June 6th. Come check me out. Peace.